Oh, wait, here is Read Aloud for April 14th. Alright, let's see. We'll go 10 minutes. I think that's about how long we've been doing it. Chapter 15 The Far Side of the Attic. Grandma refused to talk while they were in the ravine. She wore a dour, thoughtful expression and hushed any attempts at conversation. Kendra waited until they were back on the path beside the covered bridge to try her question again. Grandma, Kendra began. Not here, Grandma admonished. We must not discuss the situation out in the open. She motioned for them to huddle close and continued in a hushed tone. Let this suffice. We must go after your grandpa today. Tomorrow might be too late. We will return home immediately, get equipped, and go to the place where he is being held. I will reveal his exact whereabouts once we are indoors. Muriel may not yet know his location, and even if she does, I don't want her to learn that we know. Grandma stopped whispering and hurried them along the path. Sorry if I have been antisocial since leaving Nero, she said after they had walked in silence for a couple of minutes. I needed to devise a plan. You kids really did an exceptional job back there. Nobody should have to spend an afternoon rubbing trolls' feet. Seth was heroic on the logs, and Kendra did some well-timed bluffing during the negotiations. You both surpassed my expectations. I never knew you were a masseuse, Kendra said. I learned from Lena. She has collected expert instructions from around the globe. If you ever get a chance to receive a massage from her, don't turn it down. Grandma tucked some errant strands of her hair behind her ear. She became distant again for a moment, pursing her lips and staring remotely as she walked. I have a few questions for you two, things we can talk about in the open. Have you met a man named Warren? Warren, Seth repeated. Handsome and quiet, white hair and skin, Dale's brother? No, Kendra said. They might have brought him to the house on Midsummer Eve, Grandma prodded. We were with Grandpa, Dale, and Lena until after sundown, but never saw anybody else, Seth said. I never even heard him mentioned, Kendra said. Me neither, Seth agreed. Grandma nodded. He must have stayed at the cabin. Have you met Hugo? Yeah, Seth said. He's awesome. I wonder where he went. Grandma gave Seth a measuring glance. I trust he has been attending to his chores in the barn. I don't think so, Kendra said. We had to milk the cow yesterday. You milked Viola? Grandma said, plainly astonished. How? Kendra described how they had set up the ladders and slid down her teats. Seth added details about how milky they had gotten. Resourceful children, Grandma said. Stan had told you nothing about her? We found her because she was mooing so loud, Seth said. She was shaking the whole barn. It looked like her udder was going to explode, Kendra said. Viola is our milch cow, Grandma said. Every preserve has such an animal, though not all are bovine. She is older than this preserve. She was found in 1711. She is older than this preserve, which was founded in 1711. At that time, she was brought over from Europe by ship. Born from a milch cow in a preserve in the Pyrenees Mountains, she was about 100 years old when she made the voyage and was already larger than an elephant. She has been here ever since, gradually gaining size each year. Looks like she's about to outgrow the barn, Seth said. Her growth has slowed over the years, but yes, she may one day become too colossal for her current confines. She provides the milk the fairies drink, Kendra said. More than the fairies drink it. Her ancient breed is nourished and worshipped by all the creatures of fairydom. They place daily enchantments on her food and make secret offerings to honor and strengthen her. In return, her milk functions as an ambrosia central to their survival. It is no wonder that cows are still considered sacred in certain parts of the world. She must make a ton of dung, Seth said. Another blessing. Her manure is the finest fertilizer in the world, coaxing plants to mature much more quickly than usual and sometimes to reach incredible proportions. By the power of her dung, we can reap multiple harvests from a field in a season, and many tropical plants flourish on this property that would otherwise perish. Did you kids happen to put milk out for the fairies? No, Seth said. We spilled it all down the drain. We were mainly trying to calm her down. No matter. The absence of milk Might make the fairies a little ornery, but they'll get over it. We'll see that they get some tomorrow at the latest. So normally Hugo milks Viola, Kendra mused. Correct. It's a standing order, so there must be a reason he has not carried it out during the past couple of days. Have you not seen him since Midsummer's Eve? No. He was probably assigned to watch over Warren in the cabin until summoned. He should come if we call. Could something have happened to him? Seth asked. A golem may seem like little more than animated matter granted elementary intelligence, but most creatures on this preserve fear Hugo. Few could harm him if they tried. He will be our chief ally in rescuing your grandfather. What about Warren? Kendra asked. Will he help too? Grandma frowned. You have not met him because his mind has been ruined. Dale has remained on this preserve mainly in order to care for him. Warren is lost in a catatonic stupor. Fablehaven has many stories. He is another tragic tale of a mortal venturing where he did not belong. Warren will be no help to us. Anybody else? Seth asked. Like the satyrs? Satyrs? Grandma exclaimed. When have you met satyrs? I may have some choice words for your grandfather when we find him. We met them by accident in the woods, Kendra assured her. We were taking stew from what looked like a well, and they warned us that we were actually stealing from an ogress. Those rogues were protecting their underhanded operation more than you, Grandma huffed. They may have been pilfering her stew for years. The scoundrels didn't want to have to rebuild their thieving device. Probably sounded like too much work. Satyrs live for frivolity, the ultimate fair weather friends. Your grandfather and I share a mutual respect with various beings on this preserve, but there is not much more loyalty than one would find out in the wild. The herd looks on as if the sick or injured are brought down by predators. If her grandfather is to be rescued on such short notice, it will be our doing, with no one but Hugo to aid us. It was late afternoon when they reached the yard. Grandma stood with her hands on her hips, taking in the scene, the ruined treehouse, the damaged furniture strewn about the garden, the gaping glassless windows. I'm afraid to go inside, she muttered. You don't remember how bad it is, Kendra asked. She was a chicken, remember? Seth said. We ate her eggs. Creases appeared on Grandma's brow. It feels like such a betrayal to have your home violated, she said softly. I know sinister evil lurks in the woods, but they have never crossed the boundary. Kendra and Seth followed Grandma across the yard and up the porch steps. Grandma stooped and picked up a copper triangle, attached it to a hook hanging from a nail. Kendra remembered noticing the triangle dangling among the wind chimes. The short copper rod was linked to the triangle by a chain of beads. Grandma clanged the rod noisily around it on the inside of the triangle. That should bring Hugo, Grandma explained. She crossed the porch and paused in the doorway, staring into her home. It looks like we've been bombed, she murmured. Such senseless vandalism. She roamed the gutted house in a somber daze, occasionally pausing to pick up a damaged frame and examine the torn photograph inside, or to run her hand among the remnants of a beloved piece of furniture. Grandma climbed the stairs and went to her room. Kendra and Seth watched her rummage through the closet, finally withdrawing a metal lunchbox. At least this is intact, Grandma said. Hungry? Seth asked. Kendra slapped him on the shoulder with the back of her hand. What is it, Grandma? Follow me. Downstairs in the kitchen, Grandma opened the lunchbox. She removed a handful of photographs. Help me lay these out. The photos were of the house. Each room was shown from several angles. The exterior was also displayed from multiple perspectives. In total, there were more than 100 pictures. Grandma and the children began spreading them across the kitchen floor. We took the pictures in case the unthinkable ever occurred, Grandma said. Kendra suddenly made the connection. For the brownies? Clever girls, said Grandma. I'm not sure whether they will be up to the challenge considering the extent of the damage, but they have worked miracles in the past. I'm sorry this calamity befell us during your stay. You shouldn't be, Seth said. It happened because of me. You mustn't assume all the blame, Grandma insisted. What else can we do? Kendra said. We caused it. Kendra didn't do anything, Seth said. She tried to stop me. The whole thing is my fault. Grandma regarded Seth pensively. You did not mean to harm Grandpa. Yes, you made him vulnerable through your disobedience, and I understand you were commanded not to look out the window. Had you heeded the order, you would not have been tempted to open the window, and your grandfather would not have been taken. You must face that fact and learn from it. But the full blame for Stan's predicament is considerably more guilt than you deserve. Your grandfather and I are caretakers of this estate. We are responsible for the actions of those we bring here, especially children. Stan allowed you to come here to do your parents a favor, but also because we need to start selectively sharing this secret with our posterity. We will not be around forever. The secret was shared with us, and a day came when the responsibility of this enchanted refuge fell on our shoulders. One day we will have to pass the responsibility on to others. She took Seth and Kendra by the hands and fixed them with a loving gaze. I know the mistakes you made were not deliberate or malicious. Your grandfather and I have made plenty of mistakes ourselves. So have all the people who ever lived here. No matter how wise or cautious, your grandfather must share the blame for placing you children in a situation where opening a window with kind intentions could cause such harm and destruction. And clearly, the fiends who abducted him are ultimately the most culpable. Kendra and Seth were silent. Seth scrunched up his face. If it wasn't for me, Grandpa would be fine right now, he said, fighting hard not to cry. And I would still be a chicken in a cage, Grandma said. Let's worry about fixing the problem instead of blame. Don't despair. I know how we can set things right. Take me to Dale. Seth nodded, sniffing and rubbing his forearm across his nose. He led the way across the back porch, weaving through the garden toward their destination. There really aren't many fairies, Grandma said. I've never seen the yard so devoid of life. There haven't been many around ever since they attacked Seth, Kendra said. Since Grandpa vanished, there have been very few. Okay, we'll read more tomorrow. Bye, guys.